He played melodies meant to be heard. She lived in a world without sound. He thought music was everything. She never heard a single note. So how did they fall in love? Not through lyrics, not through lullabies, but through rhythm, through timing, through something deeper than sound. This is not a story about what was missing. It's about what they built anyway, because love doesn't always start with words. Sometimes it begins with a heartbeat and a song only the soul can feel. And the moment she stood beside him on stage, hands trembling, silent, still, he realized he had never been heard so clearly. Before the world knew his name, before the applause, the lights, the looping videos, there was only him and sound. Jace lived through his guitar. Every note was a confession, every chord, a memory stitched together with trembling fingers. He didn't talk much, didn't need to. The music said everything he never dared speak aloud. His father left when he was 5. His mother worked 3 jobs and sang herself to sleep in a language that cracked under stress. Jace listened, not just to survive, but to feel. The hum of life in minor chords. The ache of silence between verses. By 14, he was playing under streetlights. A boy with calloused hands and a voice full of longing. Strangers dropped coins. Some dropped tears. But he never wrote love songs. Because how could you write one for someone who never hears you, who never truly listens back? And then, one evening after a small cafe show, he saw her in the back, not clapping, not cheering, just watching, and everything started to shift. Her name was Mira. She sat in the back of the cafe, alone, still, and not clapping. At first, Jace thought she wasn't impressed, but then he noticed something most people would have missed. Her fingers lightly tapping against her chest in time with the music. She wasn't hearing it, she was feeling it. Mira had been deaf since she was 3. A fever took her hearing, but it never touched her presence. She carried herself like silence wasn't a void, but a place to listen differently. She didn't speak much, not because she couldn't, but because most people never really listened. Until one did, with no words at all. That night, something about Jace's playing held her there. Not the volume, not the lyrics, the vibration, the way the strings pulsed like a heartbeat she could almost call her own. After the show, he approached her, awkward, unsure. He offered a smile. She returned one. He tried to speak slowly. She pointed to her wrist and signed, "I felt your rhythm." It was kind. Jace didn't know sign language, but kindness? He understood that fluently, and so began a conversation that had no words, but would echo for the rest of their lives. They couldn't finish each other's sentences because they spoke in different languages. But that didn't stop them. Jace began with the alphabet, not the one on the guitar neck, but the curved movements of ASL, each gesture a step closer to understanding. He watched YouTube videos at night, practicing finger spelling until his hands cramped. He messed up, a lot, but every mistake made her laugh, silently, shoulders shaking, eyes glowing. And Mira? She started listening in her own way, not with ears, with her palms pressed to the wood of his guitar, with her bare feet on the studio floor, catching the tremble of bass. She learned the difference between sorrow and joy, not by tone, but by tempo, by how the music moved through the room. When he couldn't find the signs, he'd play a melody instead. When she couldn't find the words, she'd paint gestures in the air, each one more graceful than the last. They wrote songs without lyrics, danced without music, communicated in rhythm, in effort, in the gentle reverence of two people trying to truly know each other. It wasn't always easy. Frustration showed up like an unwanted guest, but so did patience. And then came the night Jace wrote her a song, not to be heard, but to be felt. And she would answer with something even he couldn't have expected. It was just a small open mic night, no tickets, no lights, just a crowd of friends and strangers and a man with a guitar waiting for her to arrive. Jace had written something new, not for an album, not for applause, for her. He tuned his strings by touch, careful, quiet, and placed a wooden platform near the stage just for Mira's feet to stand on, so she could feel the full body of the sound. When she walked in, her face lit up, though she didn't know why yet. He didn't say a word. He just gestured, "This one's for you," and he played. Soft, slow. The chords pulsed like a steady heartbeat, then rose into something almost like a question. Mira closed her eyes. Barefoot, palms on the wooden frame of the stage, every vibration rippled through her. Not loud, but alive. The crowd faded, time paused. Because this wasn't just a song, it was a confession. And when it ended, she climbed onto the stage. No one said a word. She reached up and laid her hand on his chest. Then, in careful, deliberate signs, she said, "I've never heard a sound in my life, but whatever this was, it moved through me like light." And Jace, for the first time in years, wept on stage, not from sadness, from being understood. That night, no one clapped. They just felt. And from that moment on, the world would come to know their love not by noise, but by the quiet power it carried. They never had the loudest love story, no dramatic proposals, no grand declarations, no viral videos. But if you ever saw them together, in a quiet cafe, at the edge of a beach, or swaying slowly in their kitchen, you'd feel it. You'd feel the kind of bond that doesn't need volume to be heard. They built a life, not around words, but around presence. Their home was filled with music, but not the kind that played from speakers. The music lived in the way Jace brushed her hair behind her ear, in how Mira signed "I'm proud of you" before every gig, in how they danced barefoot in the living room to vibrations only they could interpret. When they adopted a daughter, Jace composed a lullaby she could feel through his chest. Mira taught her how to sign the word for belong. They didn't chase noise, they chased connection. And over time, they realized something neither of them could have known when they met. Love isn't about hearing every word. It's about learning how someone feels them. So while the world moved fast and loud, they moved slowly together in a rhythm all their own, a beat built not from sound but from soul. Sometimes we look for love in the places that feel familiar, in shared interests, easy conversations, perfect timing. But maybe the most powerful love stories aren't the ones where everything fits, but the ones where people choose to listen differently, to stay, to learn each other's rhythm, because connection isn't always about speaking the same language. Sometimes it's about choosing each other anyway. Across the silence, beneath the noise, beyond what words alone can carry. If this story moved you, take a moment to reflect on the people in your life who feel you even when the words fall short. And if you believe the world needs more stories like this, stories of love, resilience, and quiet courage, subscribe to Able in every way. Leave a comment. Share this with someone who listens with their heart. Because in a world that talks so loud, we need reminders that the deepest truths are often the ones felt, not heard, just like a heartbeat. steady, silent, but full of life.